Money is just a story we all agree to believe. Think about it for a moment. You wake up in the morning and check a number on your phone screen. That number lets you buy breakfast or pay for a bus ride without handing over anything you grew or built yourself. The person behind the counter accepts those numbers because they know the next person will accept them too. If that shared belief ever cracks, the numbers stop working and everything gets confusing fast. That is the hidden part. Most people never stop to notice. Go back thousands of years before phones or paper, and people still needed to trade. A farmer might have extra wheat after harvest, but needs a new roof on the barn. The builder has strong hands and tools, but already has enough wheat stored away. They meet in the middle of the village and try to figure out a fair swap. The farmer says 2 baskets of wheat for the roof work. The builder says 3 baskets because the roof will last 10 years. They argue the whole afternoon and walk away without a deal. That problem happened all the time. It is called the double coincidence of wants, and it made life slower and harder than it needed to be. Early communities solved this by picking one thing almost everyone wanted. Salt worked in some places because it kept food from spoiling. Cowrie shells worked in others because they were hard to find and easy to carry. Pretty stones or feathers served the same job. These items became early money because you could trade them for almost anything later. You did not need the other person to want exactly what you had at that moment. The story was simple. Everyone agreed the shell or the salt had value. That agreement saved hours of arguing every time someone needed something. Metal coins made the story stronger. Rulers stamped their faces and symbols on pieces of gold or silver, so nobody had to weigh and test the metal every single trade. The stamp said the ruler stood behind the value. Armies and traders carried these coins across deserts and seas because the metal itself could be melted down if the ruler ever broke the promise. For hundreds of years, this system felt solid. People trusted the metal more than the words on it. Paper changed the game again. Instead of hauling heavy bags of coins, merchants left the metal in a safe place and carried a signed note that promised the metal on demand. At first, these notes were just receipts. Over time, the paper itself became the thing people wanted. The story moved from the physical metal to the paper that stood for the metal. Banks and governments printed more notes than they had metal because most people left the notes sitting and did not ask for the metal at the same time. That worked until too many people asked at once, and the story wobbled. Governments then took the next step and removed the metal entirely. They declared the paper note was money because the government said so, and because you could use it to pay taxes. That is called fiat money. The word fiat just means let it be done. The government lets the money exist by promising to accept it back for taxes and by making sure everyone else has to accept it too. No gold or silver sits behind every note anymore. The trust sits in the government's power and in the habit everyone has of using the same notes. This shift happened in most countries during the last century. The story became lighter and easier to move around the world, but it also became easier to stretch if the government prints too many notes too fast. Banks sit right in the center of this story and quietly multiply the amount of money moving through the system. When you deposit $100, the bank does not keep every dollar sitting in a vault. Rules say they must keep a small portion ready in case you ask for it tomorrow. They lend the rest to someone who wants to buy a house or open a shop. That borrower spends the money at a lumberyard or a tool store. The lumberyard owner puts the money in their own bank. That bank lends most of it again. Start with $100. The first bank keeps 10 and lends 90. The next bank keeps 9 and lends 81. Keep following the chain, and the original $100 helps create several times that amount in new loans and spending. The system grows because each person trusts the next person will pay back what they owe. Without that chain of trust, the multiplication stops. Interest is the price tag on that trust. When you let someone else use your money for a year, you expect a little extra back because you could have used it yourself. Picture $1,000 sitting in an account that pays 7% each year. After the first year, the bank adds $70. You now have $1,070. The second year, the bank adds 7% to the full $1,070, not just the starting $1,000. That adds about $75. By the third year, the base is larger still, and the added amount grows again. Watch what happens as the years stack. After 5 years, the balance sits well above 1,300. After 10 years, it climbs past 1,900. The extra hundreds come from interest earning interest on top of interest. That is why small amounts left alone for long periods can turn into surprising totals. The math is steady and patient. Inflation works the opposite way and quietly takes value away. Prices for everyday things slowly rise so the same stack of money buys fewer things over time. Picture a simple basket with milk, bread, eggs, and a basic rent payment. 10 years ago, that basket cost $100. Today, the same items cost $150. Your $100 from 10 years ago now buys only 2/3 of what it used to buy. The number printed on the bill has not changed, but what that number can grab from the world has shrunk. People feel this when their pay raise does not seem to stretch as far as it did a few years earlier. The story of money stays the same, but the amount of stuff attached to each unit of the story keeps shifting. Central banks try to keep that shift slow and predictable. They watch how fast prices climb and adjust how much new money enters the system. Most aim for a small, steady rise around 2 or 3% each year. That pace feels normal and keeps people willing to save and plan ahead. When the rise gets much faster, people start spending money the same day they receive it because tomorrow it will buy less. That rush can make prices climb even quicker, and the trust in the story begins to fray. History shows what happens when trust breaks badly. In Germany during the early 1920s, prices doubled every few days. Workers carried wheelbarrows of cash to buy bread because the notes lost value by the hour. Shops closed because owners could not decide what price to write on the sign. People traded furniture and family heirlooms for food because paper money felt worthless. The government had printed far too many notes to pay war debts, and the shared story collapsed. Similar fast climbs happened in other countries when leaders tried to solve problems by creating money faster than the economy could grow. The lesson stays simple. The story only works when people keep believing tomorrow will look mostly like today. Modern digital payments hide these layers even more. You tap a card or send a message on your phone, and the money moves without any paper or coins changing hands. Behind the screen, banks send messages to each other through secure networks. One bank tells another that an account has gone down, and another account has gone up. The same trust that once relied on stamped metal now relies on computer code and legal agreements. The story has not changed. Everyone still agrees that the numbers on the screen represent real value that can be exchanged for real goods. Most people never notice these moving parts until something goes wrong. A bank closes its doors for a few days, and suddenly the numbers on the screen feel less solid. A currency drops sharply against others, and imported goods jump in price overnight. These moments remind everyone that money is not a physical thing with its own power. It is a set of rules and habits that millions of strangers keep alive every day. The common mistake is treating money like it is fixed and steady on its own. People save without noticing that slow price rises eat part of the gain each year. Others borrow heavily without noticing that interest compounds in the same patient way, whether it helps or hurts. A small difference in the rate, or in how long the money sits, can change the final amount by hundreds or thousands of dollars over a working life. The math does not care about good intentions. It just keeps running in the background on top of the shared story. Another mistake is ignoring how the system multiplies when times feel good and shrinks when trust wavers. During strong years, banks lend more freely, and the total amount of spending power grows. During shaky years, banks hold back, and the total shrinks even if no new notes are printed. These cycles affect job chances, house prices, and how easy it feels to get ahead. Understanding the cycle does not remove the ups and downs, but it removes some of the surprise. The practical side is straightforward once you see the layers. Save early and leave the money alone so compounding has decades to work. Watch price changes in the things you buy often so you notice when your money is losing reach. Keep some savings in places that have survived past scares, so one wobble does not wipe out years of effort. Treat the numbers on the screen as a useful tool rather than something magic that appears or disappears on its own. Digital coins and new payment apps are simply the newest chapter in the same old story. They still depend on people agreeing that a certain code or token can be swapped for bread or rent. The technology changes, but the need for shared belief stays exactly the same. Every new layer still rests on the old foundation of trust, institutions, and power. The invisible architecture holds up daily life in ways most of us never pause to see. It turns promises between strangers into roofs over heads and food on tables. It lets a teacher in one city receive value from a farmer in another without either of them meeting. The more clearly you see how the pieces fit, the steadier your own choices become when the numbers on the screen shift. That steady view is the real advantage hidden inside the everyday story of money. If this helped you see money in a new way, subscribe for more clear explanations like this.